iPhone's on 10%, and it's hot as fuck in this car. So, and I really hope nothing fucked up with this audio recording, although it probably did. But look, this is raw podcast, and we're giving it to you live, bitch.
Raw, feel this heat.
Won't you break my head? Won't you break my head? Before we start, I'm gonna fall.
I'm gonna fart on you. It's the ReviewAnew podcast. What's going on, y'all? I'm DJ, aka the Rap Critic, here with Will the Greatest, and today's special guest, the Grand Incredible, known throughout the world and probably parts beyond as the Storyteller. And we are about to break down this classic episode of the Boondocks, episode 2, The Trial of R. Kelly. But first, before we get started dissecting this episode, just to get the folks acclimated, let's go around the room and let the good folks know at home where they can find the different motherfuckers' stuff if they enjoy the commentary that you hear in this episode. Let's start with your boy Storyteller. Where can they get your stuff at and support you?
Hey guys, really happy to be on. I am the Storyteller. I run a YouTube channel called The Storyteller. I am a game director. I'm a director of a game called Nixie. I run a food bank called Free Huey Food Bank. It's an initiative where we buy food and resources for disenfranchised groups and people in need. Stuff at Food Bank. If you guys want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at The Store Minded. If you guys want updates on either my game or, Nixie or the food bank or anything I'm working on, just hit me up on there. I'm not hard to find. So yeah, at The Store Minded, YouTube channel, the Storyteller or StorytellerAJ. Game's called Nixie. Check it out.
Oh, Will, where can they support you at? Where can they find your shit?
For sure. They can find me at my own YouTube channel at Will the Greatest. I don't make videos like I used to, but I'll help you out with yours. Or, but I also have my own podcast, The Ace Podcast, where we talk all things art, culture, and entertainment with my co-host, the real Aaron Alexander. And you can find me on Instagram at Will the Greatest and on TikTok at Will.thegreatest. So yeah.
And I'm, of course, your main host, the Rap Critic, a.k.a., a horse choker, a.k.a., because I'm always known as something else, you know what I'm saying? And you can, of course, support me at patreon.com/rapcritic, where you can get all my material, podcast episodes, as well as new music I'm working on early, as well as join the Rap Critic Discord, as well as kofi.com/rapcritic for one-time donations, where you can request albums for me to listen to or absolute best of artist streams, you know what I'm saying? We get that percolating and popping for the live streams. So, yeah, get with it, act like you want it. Let's not wait any further. Let's get into this motherfucking episode. The Trial of R. Kelly. Oh my goodness, where to begin?
Jesus. Oh, it's a lot. In a great way, but it's like, god damn.
There is so much to talk about. Let's just get into the very first thing that gets said, where he says, what is it? Huey gives a little narrative at the beginning. The specific way he says it, though. Here's something black people have known for a long time. Niggas are crazy, but black people don't like to talk about it because they don't want white people to know. But I'm afraid the secret might be out.
My second note, just like right after that too, is I'm like, the first black woman representation in Boondocks was a mid-crack epidemic Whitney Houston, swiftly followed by BET After Dark style ass, followed by the R. Kelly case. I'm like, oh god.
Oh, it really was a combo punch.
Something interesting about this episode, right, is that it was written a bit after, so obviously everyone's seen the Boondocks pilot at this point, right? Like everyone's seen the pilot. And what happened was they saw the pilot and they saw the initial pitch, and Adult Swim was like, yeah, it's a bit networky, but can you be funny? And so they speak about this in the audio commentaries and some interviews, but the reason Aaron ended up hiring Rodney Barnes, who's off like My Wife and Kids, Everybody Hates Chris, like all the action, right? He was very big like on like black sitcoms in the early 2000s, right, on the mid 2000s. Reason Aaron ended up like hitting him up and trying to work with him was because like in his own words, he's like, a white man said you weren't funny. And so The Trial of R. Kelly was the first episode that Aaron Magruder and Rodney Barnes wrote together, but also just ironically, I believe it was like the first episode they wrote after the pilot. So interesting things to think about. Yeah, so like that's a little history lesson. So like a big reason why I think this episode is also a little bit like, I'm not gonna say inflammatory, but a bit more, do you know what I mean? Is that like, I think they were kind of encouraged to shoot for a more controversial, edgy for more controversial and edgy material, right? Which isn't like unfamiliar to the Boondocks comics, but much more to say that like that's what Adult Swim were kind of pushing Aaron to do, which is I just think is really interesting. But yeah.
So what is insane, like looking at this from a modern, like a 2024 context, almost 20 years later, how much of this is still relevant, and also just like revisiting it, I'm just like, how did this man not go to jail? Like,
it's
the
so
fact
insane going back to this trial, and just being like, he was so flagrant with it. How did this happen?
It feels like after the R. Kelly documentary and how much compounding evidence, and the fact this came out when I was in elementary school. This is when it would have dropped. And it took them till I think I was in college to catch him and like looking back, I'm like, look, they're making fun of a lot of things and putting a lot of things together, and they have like their commentary and whatnot. But like, I remember watching the Boondocks make jokes about it. I'm like, oh, haha. You know, the PP Man, like Chappelle made jokes about this too around the same time.
Right,
and it's
right.
like, how did he walk for another decade just around?
I feel like part of it is the sensibility of the time, especially like if you go back to that, R. Kelly episode or Dave Chappelle making the jokes about like, oh, how old is 14 really?
How
it
old
felt
is
like we were just
15 really?
Yeah, it just felt like we were in a weird place in the early 2000s in terms of like, oh, sure he's a bastard, but he made some good. Like the joke that they are doing in this episode of the ignorant black people going, oh, but he good. Like people were making that argument. It's not an exaggeration.
It is like looking at this from just like my modern, more certain political leaning perspective. It's like, wow, and I know Storyteller, in your videos you've addressed points of just like the Boondocks not being the best in terms of writing women, particularly black women. I think
we'll get into that.
Like one of the biggest standout things. Like this is more in your face because it's like, wow, we really, community-wise, haven't done a great job at like protecting black girls and women, but in this context, girls. And it's even weirder because by the end of the episode, I'm like, if this was a white girl, none of this shit would have happened. Like it might have made it to trial, but it would have gone the way that Uncle Ruckus case is. And I think that's an interesting dichotomy too, is their conversation and the ongoings of the case.
So just to get into the episode proper, basically the opening narrative is kind of coming at it with this idea of, Huey representing the black intelligentsia, we want to rep for the people. We don't want to show, the coonery and buffoonery that white people want to portray us as, that white people's probably just projecting on us, right? Because that's not real. But then you see the real life buffoonery happen, like and I originally wrote in my notes the R. Kelly case, but then I was like, wait, before we even get to that, it was the Bobby and Whitney thing where it's like, hell to the no, Bobby, don't hit me. It was like, oh my God, because that was a thing. They had a reality show around that time. It was like a year or so before where it was like, hey, everybody look at their, crack addicted adventures. It's like, I don't know if I want to watch this, but it's spectacle reality TV. Britney Spears and her husband did it, so fuck it, Yeah.
It's so funny looking at these two, I guess like celebrities and famous musicians that, huge in the black community. It's just like, yeah, they're probably on drugs, but let's film it and give them some money. Which is like, I'm not gonna lie, I still do that little bit of like that sunglasses dance that they did during the show. It was funny, but it's also just kind of sad when you think about like
watching the reality. Yeah, taking in the reality of like, oh, these are people breaking down.
But also just for people at home, it's like, it's a show.
And like the profiteering of
like
that, almost.
BET After Dark is like, just shaking ass. Right. Is what it is. So it's kind of like the normalizing of different forms of exploitation, and then we get to R. Kelly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So like just the compounding of what he's saying at the beginning of like, oh wow, we're trying to not show that basically these exist, like the negative side of blackness, and I guess if you want to reach back far enough, yes, the white man putting us in this situation in which we are, what I'm saying, this is the outcome where black people are acting like such and such and such, what I'm saying. But what I think is fascinating about the way Huey tries to frame it is like this sort of like, oh man, we're trying to like not show white people that these people exist, and it's like, fuck, it's just kind of spilling out because it's coming out in the news stories, it's coming out in this, that, and the third. So it's like that sort of like, oh, we can't portray ourselves as like, no, we're not that stereotype. You portrayed us as white man because, oh shit, they are right there, and you can just point the cameras right at them. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if you would have any insight on this, Storyteller. Is Woodcrest like is it like Springfield, where it's just like generic?
Well, I've heard
America,
Woodcrest is supposed to be Maryland, right? It's supposed to be. There is a place called something Crest near Maryland.
Yeah, it's definitely based on Maryland. Yeah. Okay. I'll say I didn't expect it to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. What's it called? Yeah, it's definitely based in Maryland because it's jumping far ahead, but for the episode where they go to the cinema, like the movie theater, they took photos in Maryland specifically for that, right? So a lot of the reference imagery or the reference photography they took was based in Maryland, and because like, a lot of the Boondocks is about like Aaron's actual upbringing, like it's they're kind of drawing. It's like Aaron's trying to draw from his experiences, so he just kind of takes something very grounded, like that he grew up around, and he just kind of throws it in. So yeah, it's one of them ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing that's like really interesting about this, because you brought it up a bit earlier, right? You brought up this idea that Huey, the episode opens and Huey's just like, yeah, but I think the secret might be out. Aaron has like a ton of interviews where he just keeps saying like, you know, and especially this is way back when like the comic strip was dropping. So it's like 1999. This is even before this year. He's like, we're at a point now in culture where we can't like hide like black people's dirty laundry, so to speak. So he's kind of speaking for Huey there to just kind of be like, we are at the forefront of pop culture, and like there's nothing that we can really hide, you know, at this point. Like white people are seeing
state of the
us,
time,
you know?
yeah. And then, okay, so small side note that I wanted to bring up, because they played, like at one point, you know, they played the booty butt cheeks, and the little, you know, when Granddad's like, shake it to the right, shake it to the left. And this kept throwing me off, all right? I want to see if y'all notice this too, because the booty butt cheeks song sounds different later on in the season, and it's not on the right time. And I was like, I fucking noticed this shit, because it's like, all right, you know how to like count 4-4, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4 on a beat,
a
right?
4 count.
So it's like, yeah, it's like if you go on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 booty butt cheeks, the booty is on the and the butt is on the 1 of the next beat. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 booty butt. But later on, when you see Gangsterlicious coming down the street in one of the episodes, he's saying booty butt cheeks. When the booty is on the 1, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Is different.
I was like, hey, y'all had never heard that, right? Like, this ain't no white TV show. This black people, we're hearing this shit. Wait, that rhythm's off.
No,
this is us moment again. Like, wait a minute.
And I think it might have been a case where it's like, especially, I think it was Carl that does that bit, because he also plays Thug Nipsey.
Yeah, and I heard the audio got lost. Was it something like that?
I think he said that like he was doing both. No,
he probably did do both. I'm just wondering if it was only meant to be like a one-off joke, and then it came back around and they found a reason to use it later, so they like redid it.
Right.
That's my crack theory. I don't know if this is true until the episode comes where we get Carl Jones here, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's possible, to be honest. I think he's doing like a little like PR run right now because of Martin Blueberry. So yeah, I think it's definitely possible for you guys to get Carl Jones.
Then we finally get to the R. Kelly trial as, again, the parallel of the, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, black people act like niggas, da-da-da. But the specificity of this, right? It's not just, oh, cool or whatever. It's the way black people would irrationally defend, you know, guys like R. Kelly from doing awful shit. And how it's basically like the stupid person's version of, you know, racial politics. You know, whoever's black, it must be the white man trying to get him. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of like, and the thing about it is like, it's not that much of an exaggeration of what was happening. Am I wrong? Like, I remember this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Hell, didn't they do that to Bill Cosby 10 years ago? They tried to do that? 100 women coming out.
Yeah.
Nah, that's just
with Bill Cosby.
Yeah, it's definitely the white man trying to take him down.
Yeah, and so... And I'm trying to remember if I have this in this part of my notes, or because I was also talking about in my own notes about, like... It's weird how this is aged hilariously, particularly in the wake of everything going on with Diddy now, because this is one of the few cases where I think people are like, yeah, no, he did that shit. And we're actually like not on his side, which is interesting in comparison to like, I think it's maybe because just culturally, Diddy has not garnered as much respect as like a R. Kelly or a Bill Cosby had.
Yeah, we been thought he killed Tupac or Biggie, so you know.
Yeah, it's like, he took out the GOAT, so his time has come.
I feel like the modern parallel for and whenever I rewatch this episode, I'll get into my hot take on this episode a bit later, like when we get further down the line, right? But like, I think the modern parallel for this episode is a lot of like internet celebrities and like influencers, right? Because more often than not, like you would this situation for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people living right now in the modern age, whether like you're growing up on a tablet, on streaming services, you know, digital media, whatever, right? They're more likely to be less attached to like a Jay-Z or like a Diddy or whatever, right?
Sure.
But they're like their favorite YouTuber or their favorite streamer. It's like, oh, he couldn't have done it. You know, I watch his content, like he's good, trust me. Like this guy, I know him. And it's like, you don't know this guy, right? You don't know anything about this guy. Like a lot of, and this is just a recurring thing with the Boondocks, like generally, right? But like I feel like one of the recurring messages of the Boondocks is just don't trust everything you see and read and hear. And
very much so.
No, like daily, like when
it's like the dangers of parasocial relationships. So,
yeah. And so like when I look at the R. Kelly trial specifically, and even just the way they depict leaders a lot in the show, right? That's the kind of, if I want to take something away from it, that's my takeaway. Yeah. Just like
it reminds me of Simpsons. I remember The Simpsons was talking about how, like, you know, the creators were like, oh, we know a lot of kids watch our show and we kind of, like, are fine with it because we're trying to teach them to not, you know, disrespect authority and to question it, you know? Like,
Which, and I think I had a slightly different takeaway, but I do agree with, like, Storyteller, what you were saying. Because one of the notes I have, so recently, I don't know if any of y'all know like the content creator Illuminati, but she also does a podcast with like with friends, and they have different topics. And they had one recently that was talking specifically about Diddy and why people are you know, protective over certain black male celebrities. And I think it does have ties to R. Kelly in the sense that there is. Some of it, you know, could be a little bit of the white man, but some of it is just like what we get into near the end with like accountability and whatnot for individual actions. But I think part of it is, I think culturally, we can be a little bit protective of like quote unquote positive black male representation because we don't see it as much. So we're going to get a little more defense. Now,
and the feeling is, well, you're just trying to take one of our good
down
ones
a great
and
black
just trying
man.
to,
And that becomes the argument where it's like, it's, you know, oh, but it's a case of just excellence. Like, okay. Yeah, exactly. It's the protectiveness of the myth of black excellence. And it's like, well, you know, we don't have our, you know, so I think kind of sort of what you're, you know, also talking to.
Like,
about
we don't have our George
thing.
Washington guy that people are always going to infinitely fall over to make excuses for, even though he's clearly done awful things. Like that sort of deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Like our Martins are our we look to our celebrities to be like the harbingers of what should be done. We're not really looking to like activists. You know, it's the argument I make about Spider-Verse. Everyone thinks Spider-Punk is cool until you know him in real life, then you'd fucking hate him. Everyone would hate. I know that
specific type of person he would be. Yeah,
because like the type of that person for the modern era is not the person that you think this celebrity is. So somebody like R. Kelly, who's like, oh, but you know, he made Chocolate City and he made Step in the Name of Love. Like he did I Believe I Can Fly. Like what? Why would you lock away a great black man? It's like he's talented.
I can't got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but that ain't got nothing to do with being a good person. The nigga sucks. Like, I'm sorry.
The nigga also can't read. That ain't got nothing to do with it though.
Which is, it's just like,
did y'all know that he can't read? That's so insane to find out.
Which is impressive for a songwriter who wrote for like
it's like how is he just coasted? This man is coasted by on so much without anyone finding out.
It's like the opposite of Lil Wayne, where he never writes down his verses. It's like he can't read, and yet somehow he's made like multi-platinum songs.
Yeah, I guess
didn't he make
I
Believe I Can Fly on My Bugging Out?
Yes, I'm the world's greatest. I remember all those songs.
It's like, come on, man. He did age ain't nothing but a numbers. Like,
maybe don't bring that one up, man. Yeah.
Like, was that not the first clue?
Right. Him in the background of the Aaliyah album cover, like, oh, come on, man. I'm the Pied Piper of R&B. Get the fuck out of here.
Would a man that calls himself the Pied Piper of R&B and marry a 16-year-old commit a sex crime to minors. Come on,
It's
guys.
so insane. And then I remember I found some information I remember finding out where it was like, if you look back at the time and how the Aaliyah R. Kelly situation was treated, it was treated as if Aaliyah was the one like trying to, you know, get some fame off of the bigger name celebrity sort of thing. That was how it was kind of twisted. And so it's
you know what's
so like
oh gosh.
Oh yeah.
No, because like the reason I want to pop off on that is that's why I'd even still go back to like the kind of influencer point, right? Where like or the digital like internet celebrity person point. Because if you see like so of a bunch of subscribers, a bunch of streams, whatever, right? If you see them go under fire or someone throws out like an accusation at them, it's like, oh man, it's trying to bite off their success, you're trying to do this to black excellence or this, that, and the third, right? And that's interesting to me because again, similarly, they looked at Aaliyah and they said, man, it's just we're blaming you. It's on you. Like, why didn't you do something?
Yeah.
Or you're probably just doing this for the sake of that. So I find that parallel really interesting. Also, in relation to what Will was saying, right? Ironically, I think Aaron made the exact same point. He said that there's been an absence in black social and political leadership. And so everybody runs to celebrities to kind of fill out those roles to begin with. But the inherent problem
Yeah, I remember finding like Malcolm X quotes where he was talking about that back in like the 50s. So it's like, this isn't new.
This is like it's a rabbit hole, right? Of just issues.
It is because like even I know we gotta go back to the episode, but it's just like just talking on the Malcolm bit for a second. It's like they're gonna use distractions. Now I'm not saying it was the white man, but it's like if you notice the transition of people that are the faces of like the culture at different points historically. Like I know Rap Critic came on my show and we did like a breakdown of the timelines of hip hop. So if you apply a similar logic to like who are the faces that you think of when you think blackness, there has been a steady, interesting transition if you start from like the civil rights movement to now when we've been a lot more in the zeitgeist. So it's not to say, like, realistically, I know that there's not an absence of like black thought leaders and educators and people that use social media as a platform to like use their voice. I follow plenty of them, but they're not at the same level as like a KSI, for example, or like it's like, you know, an IG influencer or like there's not really like a black Hassan. Like there's Shark, but there's like not a lot of them.
Yeah, but he's not nearly. He's nowhere near
not
that
nearly
level,
to that degree. You know, Shark doesn't have a mansion.
Yeah.
So it's just like there are black thought leaders, but. And I think this is also just kind of goes, maybe this is a little conspiratory, but it's like it goes into that other conversation about like social media, building off like the conversation about media and how it showed black people at the start of the episode. Social media does the same thing with you got like your shade rooms and everything like that. And I don't know black people that like follow the shade room or, you know, post anything from there. But I do follow pages that follow other pages that have posted threads that have been linked back to the shade room. So it's like it's not directly me, but there's like 3 degrees of separation. So that means
it's clearly a primary internet source. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm not going there, but I am tangentially related to somebody that is. And it's like I'm not going to say it's media manipulation, but there are going to be more faces that you see versus other ones. So it's just like, and that's just, I don't know. Anytime something goes bad and they stay focused on a particular type of the badness, I'm like, some other bullshit must be going on at the same time. And we don't know what it is yet.
The algorithm, you know, it behooves the powers that be to push the algorithm this way and that, right? It's like, even though we think we're in this modern age of like, oh, you know, there's clarity now, there's so much like we can just see in terms of information, but it's like, but it's still who's guiding the information and letting you see what information and things. Like that's still an issue, you know? Yeah.
That's a rabbit hole that I'm even just sorry.
Right. But going back to the episode and tying it back in 2005, because I think a lot of conversations have happened now about the notion of what is it? Attention, like the attention culture. And there's a concern right now about just like short form content and blah blah blah. So the attention economy. Right. So the attention economy back then was driven by TV. So it's like, so the images of what you will associate with black people will be based off of what you see in the popular media at the time. So you're going to be movies and TV shows, what are the first things we see here? Whitney and Bobby on crack.
Yeah.
Niggas shaking ass. A man walking away for peeing on a little girl.
Yeah, and in an age where, like, it's still true now, where, like, how many white people in America actually know, like, black people firsthand? So a lot of what they're getting is through the entertainment they see. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, there's that issue of perception.
And then it becomes universal. Now, it's a lot faster because we're 20 years removed from this episode. But it's like, at the time, it's like,
God,
think about how... Yeah, it's like this circulated on a national scale. And I don't think there was nearly the same amount of outrage for Kelly walking away from this than poignantly OJ, which there is something to say about that later on over the chess conversation. But it's like when OJ walked, white people were pissed. But when Kelly walked, I don't think maybe because I was like 10, but I don't remember there being as much of an outcry. They're just going like, I think what it was is it was the following of that Chappelle belief. It's like, well, she was 14, she should have got out the way. It's like, motherfucker, what?
Yeah, and this episode kind of like explores that rhetoric in a way that I don't feel 100% comfortable with at points. Like, I feel like it sticks the landing at the tail end when Huey gives like the speech, but like in the middle of the episode where it does the thing where like, oh, Riley's telling off Tom Dubois, and then like Huey.
I was waiting to get to this.
Do we want to start with that? Because for starters, this is where Tom is introduced. So this is our first episode with Tom.
This is his opening scene. Oh man.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Joey.
No, okay, cool. Okay, this will be my only like, because I'm big on the comics, right? So I have to be very like mindful how much I just put about the strip here, right? I think it is so wild, so crazy that like the episode that introduces like Tom and Sarah and Dubois. Sarah and Dubois. Tom, Sarah, and Jasmine, my bad. It's like, just, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just, the scene that you introduce
Sarah
Tom
gets
in.
like one line. Yeah.
She
Like,
one line is like, I knew you shouldn't trust those white women. And it's just like,
I told you about messing with them white girls, and I'm like, God damn it. I'm laughing, but it hurts.
I think Jasmine annoys me even more because in the comic strip, she was supposed to be like this exploration into like, like accepting your afro and accepting your blackness. And then in the show, her first line is, terrorists have my dad. And it's just like, okay, well, something happened here in the transition.
Jesus Christ.
Like, it's crazy to think about.
That is throwing me off. Yeah, like you just brought like that's her first line. Wow.
Her first line is terrorists have my dad. Help. Is code orange.
Cut off his head in Algeria.
What? It's just like, and I got a lot to say on that, but. Oh, we can go that. We can do that, right?
Oh yeah. Let's get back to the point because
get back to Tom.
This is the point. Because, like, okay, so the points that he made, like, oh yeah, this is what he said, like, because he what is it? Riley's carrying the sign, and Tom Dubois comes up to him. He's like, hey, I see you guys, have this sign. I hope you don't, not feeling too bad about, me having to go up against him. And then Riley goes off on this whole thing about like, oh, okay, like, but what about, he's like, you're going off on R. Kelly for all this, but what about, isn't that girl old enough or something like that? And then he says another line about like, oh,
just
well, I accidentally peed into bed when I was little, so what about that? And it's one of those things where it's like, I can tell Riley's supposed to be the 8-year-old kid who's not really like making a good point, but then the way the scene ends, where like Tom Dubois is like trying to get a word in edgewise, and he's like, and he's being like blindsided somehow.
I saw piss coming, I move. She saw piss
exactly.
She stayed. No, Mr. Dubois.
And why should I have to miss the R. Kelly hour just for that? Yeah, and then Huey says like, you just got owned by an 8-year-old. And I was like, pump the brakes. Did he? Did Riley just go off and not allow him to say anything?
I'm right with you. Sorry, storyteller, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think one of my critiques of the Boondocks, just generally, and this episode is no stranger to it, it is like obsessed with trying to like emasculate Tom, or just trying to kind of like, or like just some form of understanding emasculate, just kind of really like put down Tom. And like for some reason, and I get why. It's supposed to be, because
he's the
Don Lemon analog.
Yeah, like you play on that, but like sometimes, sometimes the Boondocks' message gets muddied in its approach to how it does what it does. Like, I know what it's trying to say here. Like, obviously, the scene is supposed to be, like you said, he's 8, he's dumb, he's understanding the world like through, oh yeah, like I pee on the bed all the time. Should I go to jail? Right? It's a dumb, silly point. I get it. But it's the way like they punctuate these things. So again, it's like Huey going, "Oh, you just got beat by an 8-year-old."
Yeah,
or like,
Huey's the voice of reason on the show, and he's being treated like, "You got." It's like, did he? Like what?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, to your point, storyteller. I think the emasculation comes more from the sense that not that Tom got beat, because I feel similar to both of you, where it's like I don't feel like he won. What happened was a child steamrolled the conversation and left, and you let someone tell you
and
that
you just
lost.
let it happen.
You let it happen, and it wasn't even a case of just like I think it would have played differently if Tom was the adult and was basically like, I'm not going to argue with a child about
Maybe I get what you're saying.
about where it's like, I'm not
just
going to
don't
argue
like-
with a child about right and wrong when your prefrontal cortex is barely developed. But in a case where it's like an 8-year-old steamrolled the conversation, walked away, and the other one said, "You lost." You don't have to. And the thing is, what emasculates him is he agrees. He agrees that he lost. That means he wasn't as strong in his point as he should have been, because that's how he
but I also
loses
think about this
the
too.
legal case.
But I also think about this too. Like Huey is the voice of reason and makes a very good point at the tail end of the episode where he's like, all right, here's what's going on right now and here's what needs to be said. But earlier in this part right here, in fact, before Riley like butts in, like Tom Dubois is like, hey, I hope you don't mind I have to do this case. And Riley's just like, hey, you do what you got to do. Like he's just unaffected by the fact that R. Kelly is someone who peed on a 14-year-old. He's just like, do what you got to do, whatever. It's like, really? It just feels so weirdly characterized for his character,
I mean, the whole case in and of itself, it's one of those things, like thinking back to that time period, and even we were talking about like Chappelle and whatnot, I'm like, it's a funny joke, the whole like, oh, just get out the way, how old is 15 really? I think it can be funny as it's ha-ha. Yeah, like it's funny, haha, but under any sort of critical scrutiny, it immediately falls apart, and it's immediately
because
like,
nigga, what you trying to say?
Yeah, because it's just like, it's like, haha, ha? Like, you get 2 laughs, and you're like, haha, that's funny, because if I got peed on move, and then you realize this was a child. Like, any sort of critical thought
they're
applied
ultimately
to
trying
it.
to defend is, exactly. As long as the child who doesn't know enough about life is consenting, it should be fine.
Yeah, which oh god,
it's weird
we'll
because
get
I
to the
feel
actual
like
court proceeding too.
I feel like how old is this girl narrative? It didn't start with Chappelle.
I think in real life she was like 14.
Yeah, but Chappelle
I think
and
she
the
was 14
Boondocks does
in the
this a
show.
bit. Chappelle like popularizes certain jokes or certain things, and then the Boondocks rides on it, right? Sometimes, right? And even like
Yeah.
like, they very much and they
Mm.
own it. Like they say it in interviews and like it's present. The second Stick Mean episode, like they literally just steal like the F your court bit, right?
Yeah,
that's
the
just a
black-
Chappelle show thing.
Yeah, the Boondocks seems
Yeah.
to do a lot of things where it's like directly referencing things because this is a black show. And so we're going to have the blackety black. Oh, we're going to reference the Eddie Murphy bit of the now we won't have any of that when his girlfriend gets out of the car. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but no, I mean, like,
It's like these
smoking
are-
with sick. And what astounds me too is like people on social media are just noticing this when even at the time I caught it. Like smoking with cigarettes was
Right.
a real kid.
Yeah.
The teacher who's just like nigga, like that was a real guy.
Yeah.
And the Booty
Oh,
Warrior
that
was a
episode.
real dude. Like all those episodes, and people were like, "Did you know that this person was real?" I'm like, "Yes." Y'all haven't known for 15 years? There were
Like,
memes then.
media illiterate motherfuckers.
I'm like, they were jokes then. So like a lot of the I'd say at least a third of the Boondocks episodes were inspired by either real or like historical events. And some there's a lot of
They're
referential
only
humor.
slightly exaggerated.
Yeah, like throughout the episode with the spray painter. It's fucking Mr. Rogers, but crime. Like it's like a good chunk of the show where it wears its inspiration on its sleeve. There's the Hey Doc, I know we're ahead of ourselves. Like Hey Doctor 3 has a fight ripped straight from Naruto.
No, not even just that, but like I'm pretty sure that whole episode is just full of Enter the Dragon references. Like I watched that
it's like
a couple of years ago. It's just
Right.
Enter the Dragon, basically.
yeah, it's like the fucking Kumite is I think I think it's a different Bruce Lee movie, but it's like basically Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, but you know, when you look back, like when you look at animation in general, isn't a lot of it like the idea of like Disney would do that all the time of like, hey, let's take this animation from this movie we did 30 years ago just to like have a good template so we can just like put the stuff on, you know,
animation cycle. Yeah. I'm not shaming them for it. I'm just surprised that people are surprised because it's very like they
weren't trying to hide it.
They've never tried that. It's never been a secret. That's why
it's not like, oh my god, you didn't write that joke. It's supposed to be a like wink to the audience. Like, it's supposed to be that sort of deal.
We didn't write that joke, but we're paying
Which I guess makes the R. Kelly one really, I'm not gonna say unique, but I think it makes it interesting because a lot of those other ones that have their influence are more satirical. Like I did the last video I actually wrote for my channel has to do with like the Tyler Perry, and I compared it to the episode of Atlanta in terms of like how they do their commentary about Tyler differently. But they didn't, you know, you could tell it was a parody of Tyler Perry, but they didn't say Tyler Perry. I don't know how they legally got away with this because this is just straight up R. Kelly's trial, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm like down to having, I'm like, did you use like parody laws? Because they say his name. They don't say Robert Sylvester Kelly, but it's like, yes, this is Robert Kelly. You know, it's like, they had the 14-year-old girl. You know, it's like, they might have changed.
Oh my
their clothes, but the fact that like they just use their names, like I get Whitney and Bobby, you can get away with that, but it's all about him. Did he just watch and be like, haha, that's funny, I'm free, I'm not in jail, so whatever.
You know what's funny about that? You're actually right. I think I was watching an interview of Carl Jones and he said that like R. Kelly vaguely knew about the episode, but like he just didn't. I think it's literally what you said. It's just like, well, I'm free, so it's just like, so like it didn't even phase it. Like he wasn't really like focused on it. But every other time, like Winston Jerome, like LaMilton Tayshaw, like you had to change the name, right? You had to do something, right? Even Al Sharpton, like they changed every name. R. Kelly's just that's R. Kelly. So,
like when they which like did y'all see? Okay. I think these were references. They had the three protesters. I know we're getting like to the trial and everything.
Yes.
They had the three people. Yeah. One of them was Cornel West. Who are the other two?
Yeah, Cornel West.
Were they supposed to be someone else?
Yes, they were supposed to be specific people. One of them was Dick Gregory, and I forgot who the other one was.
Okay,
there was one that was the light skinned one, but that got deleted.
Damn. Who was the light skinned dude? I saw Cornel West.
Tony Brown.
Okay, because I'm just like these are actual people, but I can't place the other two. Damn, not they couldn't use Rosa Parks.
They're like the three sole people out there against the sea of black people grilling, and on R. Kelly's side, obviously.
Which does that not go back to the argument that I just made about black leaders not getting any attention?
Right, like the show is an exaggeration, but not that much.
The three sane people, and then the mob of people just like, well, don't you know he may step in the name of love? Like,
right,
but isn't there something interesting also to be said about how you have the black people protesting against like R. Kelly's acquittal? But the news anchor still goes to the people that are like supporting R. Kelly, and it's just like, yeah, they're not that interesting. Hey, so why do you think R. Kelly? Like, do you know what I mean? And I think this is why when we go into the white media and stuff like that, like I am of the opinion that I'm like, yeah, it's not all white people's fault, but obviously the narrative is being shifted in a certain direction. Right.
There's
times. So I feel like
because it behooves the entertainment. It's more entertaining to show, you know what I mean?
It's more entertaining. I think I'm going to go with them.
So,
like you, urban youth. I'm like, God damn it. They really did that. Like, the minute he went over to Riley, it just like, that's... Oh my God.
Yeah. And then like Huey tries to pull Riley away from the TV cameras because Riley's just going like, yo, if I peed in your face right now, would you move and get out the way?
Why you say it with such aggression? Wait. You said it with you didn't say it like that. You said it with a bit more force.
Hey, move out the way or B. Stay there and get peed on.
So Huey tries to drag him away, but then like the counter protesters, I guess the people for R. Kelly, they see it happening. They're like, yo, that little kid's exactly. But Yeah, they're like, yo, yeah, they try to take him out, yeah. And one of the background actors clearly sounds like the guy who does Tom Dubois trying to do like a bliggity black accent.
Yeah.
I kind of heard that.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely him.
So the whole crew did that. So sometimes you even hear Aaron in the back. Yeah, no, it's really
I love
funny.
it. The background talking in this show is top notch.
Oh, yeah, it's so funny. It's like they have some dead space for a while. They're like, we gotta fill this up. It's just like the background talking in this show is great.
One of my favorites is when they talk about the NAACP awards. It's like, who else has one of these? And someone's like, I got one.
Yeah, that's Aaron.
He says it with like such like listlessness. Oh yeah, I got
was
one.
Aaron. That joke is so funny.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
He said, I got one.
Oh, so we got to throw some love to the voice acting chops of Mr. Adam West. Rest in peace.
Oh my God, yes.
No, he did a great job. He actually did a great
was.
job.
Oh my God. The way his voice quivers as he talks.
Assalamu alaikum.
It's such an incredible performance as the white lawyer,
I'm like,
doing the OJ
I
thing.
see doing this shit like Leslie Nielsen type shit, where it's like he would do it and he would actually be earnest and not know what the fuck he's doing.
Right. He meets it with such. That's
like
the thing about Adam
point
West. He's
in which so when I show people this episode, the R. Kelly episode, right? The point where they all start cracking up, right, is when the judge says, "Oh, shut up." I think they're afraid. They're afraid of R. Kelly, and they're afraid what R. Kelly will do. And it's just like that's the point where everybody kind of like gets into the bit. And Adam West did like a great job, like performing the role. Like it's.
And it's that over exaggerated.
Like DC's legacy is incredible. Yeah, sorry, pop off.
No.
Well, no. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. It was like every time I watch it, and I've watched it like twice for us to discuss and to have my notes. I'm surprised. I'm just like, God damn, they got this show has a lot of like actual talented legends in it. I'm like, what sort of budget did they give them? But I want to go back just 1 second before they actually enter the hall. There's a weird thing. I gotta get on my soapbox again for a second. When Riley gets really passionate in terms of emotional in terms of response, thinking that the persecution of R. Kelly is merely about peeing on someone, it like to me, watch as a viewer in 2024, like it indicates to me a lot of kind of willful ignorance that I think a lot of grown men also have regarding like accountability of behavior and using it as like a poor justification for just being abusive. And I think R. Kelly is like a prime example and centerfold for that, where it's just like, if she didn't want to get peed on, she should have got out the way. So it's like, yeah. It's like, oh man, if she didn't want to be sexually harassed, why did she wear them clothes? It's like, if she didn't want her ass grabbed, she shouldn't have had it so fat. It's like, it's like parallel arguments that is used as a defense. Right. And I think the fact that it comes from a child really is kind of another way of saying it's like, you niggas are immature, but people will just take it as the literal, well, that's just a kid. It's like, no, some of you adults do the same shit. And you know who they were? They were the ones protesting against the protesters. And there were a lot of men in there and some women, which is like, yeah, the reality is that. And so when we get to Huey's monologue at the end, I like it. I don't fully agree with it, but it's like, so we can go back to the actual like hearing, but the irony of personal responsibility for the victim being an argument for R. Kelly is really wild to me, where it's just like, it's like, yeah, you know who needs to be held responsible here? The child, the victim. If she didn't want to be a victim, she shouldn't have been where the victim incident would happen. Clearly, R. Kelly is the true person here that deserves to walk away.
It's a hard one, right? Because I'm just gonna get my take care out of the way. We'll get to the speech when we get to it, right? But my least favorite part of this episode is on. I think this episode is great, by the way, but a part of me doesn't like this episode. But it's not because like I think it's doing anything particularly bad. The speech by Huey is my least favorite part of the episode. I'm gonna be so real. That's the part that everybody like shares online. It's like, yeah, Boondocks try to warn you guys, man. They try to warn you guys, and they post the Huey clip, right? And it's always that speech. I feel like, and this is my issue with the first season. This is my issue with the first season of the Boondocks, just generally, right? Just that whole first season. The reason I'm not crazy about that part of the episode is, and this is just a general critique I have of season 1, is that like I like that season 1 is a slower season for the most part, right? But I feel like the reason everyone's like, man, the message of season 1 is crazy. The reason everyone says that is because Huey basically spells out the message at the end of every episode, right? Whereas like, and this is really
he's the South Park kids. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And like
I learned something today.
yeah, I like that was the message, And I don't hate that. Like there are times where that's like really good and really strong, right? And there's some episodes that really works. This episode I feel didn't need it, right? I feel so a good example is it's a black president, Huey Freeman, right? The whole joke there is that Huey isn't saying anything. He doesn't tell you what to think of Obama, doesn't tell you what to think of what everybody else is saying about it, but you end the episode
I'm tired.
and I'm tired. But like you end the episode and you know exactly what point is being made. You know exactly how we're supposed to feel to like every given character's perspective and this, that, and the third. I think the Boondocks is at its strongest when it's able to do that, as opposed to kind of going, all right, Huey, stand up and say the smart thing, And I think a lot of season 1 does that. It's still good and I like it in parts, but I think this show sometimes has an issue of making, like you said, like making Huey the smart one. Like he's the one, he got all the answers, right? But the issue with that, or the issue with doing that, is that you don't let Huey be a character. Then. When Huey has to be the mouthpiece for like black intellectuals, or like the mouthpiece for we conscious heads. We got our heads right, whatever, right? Like when you make Huey into that role, you put Huey in that role, you basically relinquish his right to actually be like an actual character, right? And I think that's kind of where my frustration with that scene lies. And sorry, I know we're jumping around everywhere. I think we're at like the scene before the trial. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we're right at that part where Adam West comes in. So just to throw respect on Adam West, Dave, like I think he does such a great vocal performance, but then specifically the part. So he makes this point, which is the crux of his argument essentially at first, where he's like, what about those old Greek philosophers? Were they sickos when they would go to bed with young boys? And what about the founders of this nation? Were they gross because they did? And it's like, the answer, and everyone's like, I mean,
it's like the answer to all of those questions is yes.
But the only difference is there was literally no one to push for the advocation of children's rights back then. So of course people didn't think about, their human autonomy. You know what I mean? It's the sort of like, we don't get taught about their discretions of the great men of the past until afterwards. You got to go to the college level courses to find out the shitty things they did. So by then you're already kind of drinking the propaganda of, no, George Washington was a great guy. Like that's just the truth, right?
Yeah, it's just like, just because you say it in a prestigious voice doesn't make it correct.
Right.
It's like, well, it's like in Japan, you can buy little girls' panties out of a vending machine. Do we call them backwards? It's like, yes, we do.
Is that even real? Is that
I think
real
that
thing?
was a thing.
I think it was. I'm not sure if it still is, but I do remember that being a thing.
Yeah, it's not like a Japanese institution or something like that, but it's probably like in the same way that nowadays OnlyFans motherfuckers buy like bathtub water from chicks and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that sort of thing probably.
Sell them socks. Throw them dogs on Foot Finder.
But so now at first things are kind of going well for Tom because he presents the evidence of the tape where he's like, well, and the audience is going like, whoa, well, this looks so obvious. Like you could see his face, you see his freckles and everything, when they're showing the tape. So at first it kind of seems like, oh, okay, maybe, Tom Dubois is going to win this case. But then it kind of goes back to Adam West's lawyer's defense. And he brings up this is the part where the show kind of loses me again, where he brings up the 14-year-old girl. Again, most prominent female character so far on the show, ladies and gentlemen. And he's like, oh, let's interview the 14-year-old. Yeah, let's interview the 14-year-old girl. And she's like, I was fine with it peeing on me. If I didn't like it, I would have got out the way. And it's like, Riley's like, oh, I told you. Ha ha. And it's sort of like what are we doing, Boondocks? Why are you framing it like this?
That scene is also kind of messy for me because, forget her name, I think it was Jill Talley, who voices Sarah Dubois.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I looked it up the other day. I forget.
Yeah, it's Jill something, right? I think it's Jill Tally or something.
I think
yeah.
it is.
She
I'm
voices
pretty sure
the
The
it's
little
little
black
girl.
girl.
Oh my god! Why do they do that?
Oh wow!
And so,
Wait,
like,
what?
So awkward.
Yeah, no, and so, no, that's and so obviously like they literally said in the got to it's just like, yeah, that's Jill. We just couldn't find anyone, right? And so a lot of the time, right, when you hear black women in the Boondocks, it's a white woman playing.
That's ridiculous.
Right?
Why would you do that?
Yeah,
Wait,
it's really
that's even
bad.
weirder
It's
because I'm
really
pretty sure
bad. I
Naima
know.
Funk is in this
Yeah.
episode. Like,
And
remember the
what
skinny
the hell-
black girl from Who's Line and Wild and Out?
I'm sorry, Regina King couldn't do an extra voice. It basically sounded like her anyway.
That's
No, I feel like
It was crazy.
I feel like getting Regina was, I can understand. For me, it's like you guys had some like real like voiced up black female voice. Like they had what's it called? They had Miss Kitty, the one that played Trixie in American Dragon.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had Lauren Hill.
Whoa.
Was gonna play Caesar at one point. They had Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
There was someone else.
So
I'm
there's no
blanking on, but they had
excuse.
they had options.
Yes.
That's
there
it.
was no excuse.
You know what's even
That was
crazier
mad.
is I thought before I looked, because I had to look up that it was, and you were right, it was Jill Tally. When I first heard it, I'm like, bitch, was that Tara Strong? Because I know she shows up in a couple episodes too. Because I thought it sounded like Tara when it said, "I told you about messing with them white girls." I'm like, bitch, is that Tara? I know a white woman when I hear one.
But I
But
wanted to circle
apparently
back
not
on-
if she voiced the little girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
I
a
wanted to
white
circle
woman
back
when
on
I
that real
hear
quick. I just think it's so funny, like looking at this whole case, because like the reality of the fact is, you know, they're framing it in this way of like, oh, if this 14-year-old girl didn't want it, she would have just moved out the way. But then it's like, it's so funny learning what we know now of like R. Kelly had these women in fucking compounds, you know, not letting them leave, making them, you know, make videos under duress, saying that like, oh, everything is fine, you know. So like watching back this episode, it's like, yeah, that's not how it went down, guys.
Yeah, even knowing more deep.
I think, yeah.
What's crazy about
No,
like
go.
the case too is like, if I recall, because you know, even one of the things they point is like, yeah, we have all this evidence and we have like the person's testimony saying that, you know,
Like this shit happened. It's not a question. Yeah.
yeah, and I think in real life she said it wasn't me and denied it. I think that's what they said in the actual documentary. I'm like, okay, what about all the other videos of sexual abuse towards minors that he also committed? You're just gonna hold him on the one where he like looks into the camera and not all the other ones that he had?
Oh my goodness. And was showing to people. He showed people this tape. Like, that's the
and was
thing.
showing to people like that was what was weird to me. I'm just like, okay, so you couldn't get him on the one. What about the other like 63?
Oh my
What about
God.
all those tapes? Because it was multiple tapes.
I
It
guess
wasn't
you
just
have
like
to have the parents come forward to sue, and the problem with a lot of those parents is that they kind of had
didn't come
stars in their
forward.
eyes. Yeah.
and it was was so it's messier in retrospect, but it's like, god damn, you had everything you needed. How did you
Yeah.
you
But-
miss?
So then Adam West, he interviews the little girl, and I love this one bit of interaction though, where he goes like, "You're black, is that correct?" And she goes, "Nigga, is you blind?" Which now, wow,
No, she
my
asked
girl
him
said that.
if
What?
he was
Yeah.
African American. It's like, you're an African American.
Yeah.
He's like,
And then just the way Adam West
that line is-
the way Adam West responds like, "No, I'm not." Like he's not like taken off at all by it. He's like, "Oh no, you're mistaken."
Adam West is really funny in that scene, but like you said, like because I know that's Jill, every time I hear that scene, I'm like, ugh.
Why?
I kind of wince a bit.
it's one of those cases where it's
I'm
just,
just
like,
like-
sometimes I listen to enough voice actors that usually I can like spot some by their voices, like Rob Paulson showing up as the slave master later on in the show,
Sure.
which I'm just
You
like,
can always tell
oh,
the
they made
yakko
Yakko
over
Warner
there,
say
yeah.
the N-word, let's go.
Yeah.
That must have been a hilarious day in the booth.
That's Shaggy, right? That was Shaggy, right? In Scooby Doo.
No, he was one of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. All right,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. I know that at some point they make Shaggy say the N word, and it's pretty hard.
That's fucking funny.
Yeah.
Isn't that Casey Kasem? I think, or the original Shaggy?
Yeah, I think at the time it was still Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it would have probably been because it was before Matthew Lillard, but one of the Shaggy. It probably was making Casey Kasem say the
That
N word is
sounds
almost
like the
as funny
Boondocks.
as
Yeah.
making Fred Willard say the N
And they
word.
made him
Rest in
play,
peace.
like-
Well, that's funny. as
like
fuck.
a real redneck redneck racist. Like,
Yeah, 'cause-
I think Ruckus got on stage and he was just like, "Bro, what is this nigga doing here?" It was really bad.
You know what?
Like, it was really, really bad.
Talking about Ruckus, we haven't talked much about like the kind of B plot of Ruckus
right.
and Grandpa playing
The
checkers,
checkers
and
game,
it's
yeah.
sort of like faint parallels. Where just like Ruckus is just like consistently meat glazing white people in white culture, but
yeah.
it's like
Wait, no. There's one really funny scene.
there's an interesting, I think, dichotomy between a black man being persecuted in the justice system for something he actually did wrong, and then a
OJ.
blind black man. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was gonna talk about the thing that Ruckus was talking about in his story, where he's like, "Yeah, I know the nigga said he was blind, but
Oh, he tried to get out with that
It's
old
like,
I'm
in the
blind
case of-
excuse.
yeah." And so it's like him being prosecuted for wrongdoing in a time when it's like the ramifications were much crazier, and it is funny too. But it's like what. Where it's just like, well, you know what OJ told to Kobe about being around them white men. I'm like, it's funny because they're both dead now, and this joke is really weird. It's funny in 2024. Both of those men in that joke are no longer with us, and both of them had
Don't let this
weird
turn it off
legal
to white
cases
women.
with white women.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
That's a joke from the strip. Fun fact: Huey's best friend made that joke, and they just pulled it from
Wow.
the strip and they put it in the show.
I'll be damned. That's
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, that's a good joke. It is a good joke, but it's just
That's like, we
watching
can't
it in
lose that one.
2024.
Yeah.
It's like we lost OJ.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh no!
So,
He'll be all
so
right.
we get.
He-
Oh, wait.
He's
So we got
probably
to get to
looking
this
up at
part.
us now.
So we got to get to this part with Adam West. You know, he's building
Okay,
up the
I'm sorry.
case. You know, where he's talking about I'm just saying that R. Kelly is a man who loves his black sisters, unlike Mr. Dubois. The sharp eyes.
Why is your
turn
wife there? Why is she there?
Who's married
to a white woman?
He does like the white woman.
You heard the H in that.
Like, yeah,
Oh,
nah.
man.
He made sure they knew.
And-
That was good.
But I am wondering, why
Adam
did
West
he
is
bring?
great in this episode.
What was it that Dr. Umar would say? Do not bring your white wife. Why would you bring your white wife? Why is she there?
Tom Dubois not thinking twice about it. He's like, we're just going to keep to the facts, right? We're just going to keep to the things, so I got to win this. Not knowing that this white dude who probably, you know what I'm saying, studied under one of the lawyers for OJ's case, you know what I'm saying? He was probably like, oh, word, this is what you do.
And,
Yeah.
oh, man.
Oh man,
Like, this is what you do. You
thing is,
you
too,
pull
like,
away from the thing and then make it about this racial thing that's not really about the problem.
Yep.
You know, like, yeah.
peeing on first they pee on R. Kelly, then they pee on you in
Yeah.
America.
Oh, sure. Maybe he actually did pee on the little girl. But the point is that they're just trying to persecute a black man because they know his music is important. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This motherfucker made a bunch of booty club jams for the ladies. Like, this man was not making no important music.
Man. Okay, multiple things to say, but one of the
Yes.
we might have to go back
Oh,
a bit
yeah,
for
go
this,
ahead.
right? R. Kelly shows up during the protest, right?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about how that his music is thingy, right? And they're looking at him as this political leader. He comes out there, right? I love the delivery of this line. He gets up on top of the stage. This is truly a sign of black people sticking together. You know, so in the words of Sister Soldier, an injustice anywhere is an injustice anywhere. Amen. And that's a misquoted Martin Luther King.
Like a motherfucker. I'm like,
It is
I
just-
think you said that wrong and gave it the wrong credit.
an injustice
beautiful.
anywhere. Amen. I love the voice. Can I just say?
Because remember what RC had said earlier? The nigga couldn't read.
Yes.
What made you think he was doing research?
So you
to
know
figure
he just
that
heard
out?
that somewhere.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, this is pretty much it.
I like returning back to the same scene. I like the element of I think this is interesting. The element of Tom being he's so not tapped into the culture that the idea of him bringing his white wife to the courtroom, knowing and this is really what Huey. I feel like they could have doubled down on this a bit more. The fact that what Huey is saying is you are not culturally tapped in, so you have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
That's
by
the
doing
point that
this.
he's
Yeah.
kind of making.
I think
Yeah.
if you approach it from that angle, it comes off a lot better. if that makes sense. And I feel like that was the intention, right? But I think it gets muddied a bit in the whole like, oh man, Tom, just be a man. Just, come on, man.
The doubling of that
think,
and the way that it seems to like joke but not joke about the she's 14 anyway. Like there's no real pushback against that point. You know, it's just that you're not supposed to. But then it's like okay, but you know, the framing feels kind of awkward. But again, I do like
Aaron is big on.
Go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was gonna say Aaron is big on personal accountability, and I feel like that leans into this episode a bit, and I feel like that's probably why like they're writing that point in, but I'm not sure if I don't think that was the wisest thing to do. To be
it's all about perspective.
Well, and to what you were saying earlier about just like the end thing, storytelling, I think it ties into your point now. Part of the problem is if you try to do too many things at once, or if you explain the lesson basically at the end, I mean, that means people have to critically think, and we don't want to do that. Like, media criticism, media literacy is dead. Break it down to them. Make it obvious, but not too obvious, but kind of obvious. But they'll have to think about it, man. What if we just tell them? Tell them the lesson for today. But I think to your point, that is a case where they tried to do a couple too many things at once and didn't like space them out or say them clearly enough. So it's like the main lesson is right in your face, but the little things that you can pick up on might overshadow or overstep one another.
Yeah. Because the big point is R. Kelly isn't a political prisoner.
Right. Yes.
He needs help.
Right. That is the point that they're trying to ultimately get to. And I like how Adam West's character is kind of used to be the propagandist who paints the grievance politics onto R. Kelly to push the propaganda of like, oh, you need to, use all that energy and rage that you felt historically to help this black guy, this one individual black guy who's gonna like totally help you guys out. And it's totally not just a super rich celebrity strictly using the racism of the system to get off scot-free. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's one of the few cases where it's just like it's an emotional plea, but it doesn't bank. It's an emotional plea to racial sensibilities that actually doesn't bank off white guilt because all the jurors are black.
Yeah, and the judge.
Yeah, and so is the judge. Which I mean, that's an interesting kind of observation that just occurred to me is that like the judge and the jury in the episode, I don't know about real life, but in the episode, they're all black. I mean, they clearly came in with a bias, hilariously. But but it's just
and then by the end, when he's trying to like, Tom DuBois trying to be like, guys, you can't do this to a little girl. It's like, tell that to your white bitch. And it's like, God damn.
which again, that goes back to my point earlier. We don't protect black kids enough.
Yeah, and it's doing that like messed up thing of like mapping one problem onto another as if that cancels out what's happening. It's like, oh, well, we all know some black guys date white chicks, so I mean, come on. It's like it's basically the same logic of like, oh, we all know some white guys are skinheads when they're like bald, so I mean, come on, all white guys that are bald. It's kind of like, I get what you're saying, but there's a little bit more specificity to what's going on here,
As you're speaking, you're making me think of Dr. Umar's, because it's like, we got to put BH and CN behind your name. Bunny Hopper and Cool.
Oh my God! What?
What?
Jesus Christ!
I've never heard that.
Okay, I will send that to you after this conversation because that shit is hilarious.
I've seen all of that. I've never heard that.
Okay, I will send you all that later on. But
some additional research.
All right. Okay, I've got some additional research to do too.
Has Boondocks ever touched Dr. Umar? I don't think they have.
He wasn't a thing by the time.
He was. I don't think he was relevant enough to be talked about.
I feel like it was a bit of that.
I agree. He was around for sure. He wasn't, I think, at the place where he is now. Which, God,
was like, fuck, we've been trying so long to keep this asshole.
If the show was still around, they would have done him though.
Yeah.
Like, if the show was around, they definitely would have.
Absolutely. They probably have him on the show. I mean, Kevin Samuels was on Atlanta. They probably just get him.
No, because it's a weird one. Because like, Aaron made a lot of. And there's a reason when you go on Aaron's IMDb page, right? it basically just says Boondocks Black Jesus. You know, he made a lot of enemies. That's right. Like a lot of people don't.
I mean, he pissed off Tyler Perry. I knew that was like
yeah, but like he, even on the comic, like there's rappers that don't like him. Like there's a lot. So, and he's even been on record like, yeah, there's some things I don't touch because I want to keep my job. Right? But like he might have went in on one too many people. Right?
Imagine beefing with a cartoonist.
Right, he literally put at the beginning of one of the episodes like,
Yo.
"Hey guys, I'm just joking. This is just fucking rap." Like I remember,
I'm just joking. Do not come at me.
in one of the episodes,
That's actually worse than trying to run up on a comedian. You beefing with somebody that draws cartoons.
you notice
like
man,
throwing hands at
got
Gendy
no hands.
Tartakovsky.
Right? Oh my god.
I think a quick point on the trial again. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
You
Go
have,
back.
because this was way back, right?
Yes.
You were making a point. Obviously, all the jurors are black, the judge is black, and so yeah, like this is supposed to be a commentary on how black people perceive this. But something I was just thinking of, and I never really thought of the episode like this. And obviously, like Kiwi's like, oh, you can't blame the white man for this. You can't blame all the white men for this. But I do think it's interesting that like Adam West's character is this white guy, and he kind of sells to like a black audience. No, this is your hero.
Yeah.
This is your guy. He's they're afraid of him. The guy that pissed on the look, they are so afraid of him. They're afraid of what he's gonna do. You need to rally around him. Don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to the lawyer, the white wife, right? Listen to him. And I think there's also something to be said. Yeah, no, because I think there's also something to be said, not just about like, oh, you know, the way, I mean, black audience, African American audiences, whatever you want to say, like perceived R. Kelly, but also just how white people or the white media, whatever you want to call it, kind of sold him to black audiences almost. And I think there's something interesting to be said there. Just kind of how, like, obviously, because again, you don't want to make this all about, this is all the white man's plot and scheme, right? Like, the episode's very explicit about that. But I do think some of the more subtle ways that things are presented are, like, kind of interesting to just kind of think about.
I mean, building on your point, it's I remember now what I was going to say earlier is talking about accountability, and we're about to, like, get into Huey's big speech in a second, is that like multiple things, and I think this is kind of a bigger point about the episode, even though it's not said in his final monologue, is that multiple things can be true at the same time. So it's like, yes, the system can historically be like the American justice system can and is historically like biased against black people, particularly, black men. It's like, and at the same time, you can't sexually abuse, like you have to own up to your shit if we agree that it's wrong. So it's like, the system can be rigged, the system can be against you, and that doesn't mean that, like, that the system
you don't get a get out of crime free card because of that.
You don't get carte blanche to do whatever you want and be like, you can't commit crimes just because the system isn't for you. Matter of fact, you should. Most people try not to commit crimes specifically because the system isn't for you.
The real fuckery of it is like, well, who's the victim at the end of this? A young black woman. It's not like, oh, we still got one over on the man. Like, no, it was black women being sexually abused and traumatized.
Yeah, it's like sure, the community of people that were like Huey says, it's like the people that surround R. Kelly failed R. Kelly, but who we all failed was that little girl. Everyone failed her, the child. Like, that's vastly over the grown-ass man.
Like this dude literally, like the word was, and this is apparently a church that like was really big in like Chicago or what have you, and he would like do rehearsals and stuff like that with them, R. Kelly, and he would legitimately go to the Burger King across the street apparently where the high school was, and like just pick up chicks that like that. It was just casual for him like that.
He'd be hanging out at like cheerleader rallies and shit, and watching them from like the Burger King.
That's wild.
It's betting like this is all.
So he was just a predator.
Yeah, he was
straight up.
And
he
then
had
one
like
of the
a shit ton of videos. He'd show it to his friends, and there's like that was up to him getting caught. That means it was more by the time they put the like he actually got like convicted. Like, this is just 2005. He had a lot of evidence.
This man
imagine what happened between like 05 and like 15, 16, I think is when he went to jail. Like, it's been almost 10 years at this point.
The interview where it was like right before things really hit the fan, I remember he did an interview where he's like, if you're going to talk disrespectfully like this, I'm going to get up out of here. I'm going to walk to a Burger King and get something to eat. And I was like, wow, if you know anything about this trial and the evidence.
That wasn't the right thing to say.
Like there's...
The PR manager was screaming.
Like, that's like, nah. That's almost as bad as...
Nah.
That's almost as bad as the one interview. It's just like, are you attracted to teenage girls? No, when you say teenage, how old do you mean?
Like
the second worst answer you could have said behind yes. Somehow you picked. There were two wrong answers.
What is the?
It was too vague.
Define is like what the fuck?
You could have asked a question about. You could have said, "What color is it today?"
We talking about here?
Jesus Christ!
Oh
my God!
I think.
Oh yeah.
That's our
What was it?
Oh well, I was just about to get to the actual monologue proper. Where he's like, "What the hell is wrong with you people?"
Yeah.
And so now it makes a good point. Every nigga getting arrested is not Nelson Mandela.
Correct.
And then another good point. Like, yes, the government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail on fallacious charges, but R. Kelly is not one of those men.
I think that speech does a great. Okay. While I did have like my critiques of the speech, I think what this speech does really well is that like it does present the nuance of it really well. I think the Boondocks can sometimes struggle to present it because obviously it's very critical of black people. Like if anything, I feel like that's what a lot of like racist types tend to really like about the Boondocks. It's like, yeah, finally a show that's like racism is real, but you guys need to get it together. Right?
Yeah.
But this is an episode that I feel does a really good job at going, hey, I really, really love black people, but we can't do this.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like Huey's speech and the ending like monologue too, a bit at the end, does a good job at kind of going, you know what, like this is coming from like a place of genuine love. And I think that helps bring it all together.
Yeah.
You know?
And so when he says, go on.
I was gonna say it's like the ending monologue is actually the one that I have a little bit of critique for, but we can
really
talk about that when we get there.
Because so
actually I do too.
So all right, so like just to put the point on it though, you know, I like where before the ending, you know, when he's still giving the monologue, it's like, you a fan of R. Kelly? You want to help R. Kelly? Get some counseling for him.
Counseling for R. Kelly.
Get some counseling for
Oh my
R. Kelly.
Jesus Christ! Somebody said it. Thank God. In 2005, he said this shit.
Right. But don't pretend the man is a hero.
Huey said, "Send that man to therapy."
Yeah, it's like you want to send him to therapy. Like
now,
also the animation cycle of R. Kelly when he started singing is so damn funny because all of their animation is usually very.
Where he just goes up and
down. Up and down. Like it's on a popsicle stick,
and he's not even mouthing the song.
Oh my God!
Look,
yeah,
I know it's not an actual R. Kelly song, but who is like, look, we're running out of money and time. Just put him on a rig and just have him go up and down.
Yeah, just to get a little flute sound. It's basically an R. Kelly song, right?
Gosh, even just a quick note on the animation, right? Season 1 has so many animation errors.
Oh,
and there's a point in the scene where Huey is walking back to the car with Riley, right? Like there's a point where Huey glitches out and he just starts like glitching on the way to the car.
God, I gotta
I'm not sure if any of you have the episode in front of you, but check it out. When you see Huey walk back to the car, he's glitching.
I gotta watch this.
It's not.
But let's get to the serious part, you know, because Huey has a pretty good ending, like, you know, for the most part, where he's like, hey, you know, like, I continue, you know, like, we continue to struggle for black folks, but, you know, I'm often vexed at the actions of my own people, so you do what you can to help, but then they make you wonder why you even bother. And I thought it was interesting they showed, you know, Granddad going back to pick up Uncle Ruckus, kind of giving him a ride from the park, and it was like a moment of like well, I mean, I guess this is before you really know about Uncle Ruckus, but you know, at this point it's kind of like even though we have our
learned a lot about him.
Like, actually we do.
But I think we learned everything we needed to know about that nigga.
But that's what makes it so interesting, and how the show is still going like, but he's still a black man, and we still gotta care for him because we all know that we're all struggling in this together. It's like this sort of like, damn man, it's the look.
Yeah, the B plot ties it together really well.
It's the looking down, kicking at the dust, like,
Granddad gets up and he's just like. Yeah, because he gets up and he's just like, I'm not dealing with this guy anymore. He's just fuck this. And he leaves. And then he comes back while Huey's doing the speech, and I think that's really good. Before we get, because I know, Will, you want to talk about the speech.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the speech.
Sure.
before we go there, right? We missed a scene. I don't have much to say about the scene, but it's a funny scene. It's the scene where Ruckus is sweating. It's just like, then you just wake up and you wonder what happened.
Really well animated, that sweat.
It's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, with a deep sense of satisfaction.
Oh, no.
And I was just like,
Pardon me, Robert. I need a minute.
I'm sorry,
Looks like you
Robert.
need 5.
I think you need to take 5. Yeah, so that joke is just funny. Yeah,
No,
that's all I really wanted to
I don't know what you done.
The show's joke.
Because that's a sleeper. There are jokes in the Boondocks that are like, I know it's coming, but that joke is the one that catches you off guard when I'm watching the episode. I'm like, oh wait, right.
I think for me the one that gets
he really loves this.
I think what gets me is like just Sarah at the end after Tom utterly washes out of that case. And just her and Jasmine. Again, why the fuck is Jasmine there either? Like, just a waste of animation cells. But it's just like, I told you about messing with them white women. I don't know why that shit gets me. It's so fucking funny to me.
Like it's a simple line, and it's one of those things where like it could play wrong, and it's just like, well, it's this white woman saying it to it, but it's like there's a familiarity to how she's saying it, and a way of like, I'm aware that you know what I mean. There's a self-awareness in how it's delivered. Yeah, that makes it kind of like work.
I don't know how to do. It's like it's a new. Okay, like, as a black man that has dated white women in the past, there's I think a weird cultural nuance where it's like the person this is coming from knows what's going on with the relationship dynamic that they have. So it's one of those things where it's funny from the. It's kind of like Get Out. It's kind of a funny from the inside. Type of thing, where it's just like, yeah, I know they don't really like that we together, but it is what it is, and I still love you. Like, it's a weird moment of chemistry where it's just like the culture doesn't like me, but I love you. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Tom, the culture doesn't love you, but I do. That's what that line represents.
Now, again, not that Tom doesn't have some issues, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like, his relation to his blackness.
Plenty.
But again, like you said, it does kind of like feel like it ends up sometimes, especially in later episodes, falling into just the emasculation trope. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. What was it we wanted to say about the speech, though? I'm curious.
Okay, so the
Will, the floor is yours.
Okay,
go crazy.
So the monologue, I think it is well-intentioned about the vast diversities of way that, like, black culture can, particularly American black culture, can like present itself and who we fight against, and like, fighting the man and the system and the long hard fight. And Huey almost closing with but they're our people and you gotta love them regardless. It's optimistic. I respectfully disagree. Because it's like,
I get what you're saying.
As a whole, I love my black people, black brothers, sisters, non-binary people. Like, I love my people. I love my culture. However, some of you niggas got to go.
So, hey, look,
Kanye
people
West,
are individuals.
You got to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing at the end of the day. People are
Candace Owens,
individuals,
you got
and
to go.
regardless of their blackness, which sure, like it makes us have a common sort of like, core kind of like, hey, we all know we're kind of getting screwed over, so let's kind of look out for each other. It was like, but I'm not just gonna let you do whatever and be kind with it. Like, no,
I think it's a case where something like that can be a little misinterpreted, where it's just like, it's basically, I can love you, but also call you out for bullshit. Not in that. I think when you get into the detail, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And that's why we have that turn of phrase in the first place. So it's like, I love my people on a macro scale, but on a micro scale of certain individuals that I've been exposed to, I don't agree with a lot of you niggas. And if we're not on the same page about certain things, it's like, you ain't gonna make it to the revolution with some of us. I might not make it to the revolution. I'm trying. But like, don't save them. They don't want to be saved. I think hood niggas should have a right to have happy, peaceful lives, just as much as the niggas do in Hollywood. However, if either one of those motherfuckers are sexually assaulting and harassing people, you got to go to jail. We got to get rid of you, Buckaboo.
Some niggas deserve to go to jail. To quote a later episode.
It's like, some of you niggas got to go to jail. I don't care what your tax bracket is. I think all black people should have freedom and accessibility to be themselves, however that presents. But if you become a problem or cause harm to other people, you got to go, buddy. Now,
your rights
believe in
end where everyone
rehabilitation.
rights begins. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's just the
Yeah,
reality.
it's like, I believe in like restorative and
I'm surprised.
rehabilitative justice, sure.
Sure,
But you
sure.
can't be here. You can't be. You can't
Especially,
stay in the hood.
especially with R. Kelly's, he wasn't on no,
Right.
oh, I feel so ashamed. Like, nah, this nigga was flagrant with it. Let's not even get it confused.
Dog, you recorded it
like
on VHS
like
and DVD. Like, my nigga. It's like,
You know how long it takes to make a VHS?
right. You had to get a camcorder and had to
wait,
set it
but
up.
yeah.
We see him adjust it in one of the videos.
Oh, what were you going to say, Storyteller?
Like, that was one of the few clips that I saw of some of those incidents, was him looking into the camera like he did in the episode and adjusting it. I'm like,
Lord.
we saw this nigga's face.
Good
oh my
Lord.
God. Oh.
But what were you going to say, Storyteller?
I didn't even see the. First of all, I was gonna say I didn't even see the original video. To be honest, I remember them in the behind-the-scenes commentary saying that they didn't watch the video, but they just had to kind of get an idea of what they needed to depict.
I mean, that's
So,
fine.
I think yeah.
How much evidence do you need to see?
I remember it being a fucking 50 Cent joke on the song. Oh, niggas eating popcorn, right? Rewinding the tape. Remember that from the Love Me song? Good times.
Oh, I don't.
The 8 Mile soundtrack.
Oof. I mean, yeah, 50 Cent, one of the pettiest motherfuckers in the rap game.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly. Of course,
surprised
he's
he'd
gonna
say
bring
some
it.
shit like
I think the line was. He said like, R. Kelly, he had some fucking hits. Let me find out he fucking around with Bow Wow, bitch. It's like, oh God, 50.
Oh no!
No.
Storyteller, after your point, I want to slightly
yeah.
derail and give like my crazy crack theory about R. Kelly and Usher that is just tangentially related.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
what did you want to say about the monologue?
Oh wow. Oh damn. Okay, well, I feel like I got a lot to build up.
No,
to.
no, you good.
All right,
Do your
wait, damn.
thing.
Okay, cool. Quick one. I just in response to what you were saying, Will. I get it, and definitely like in a lot of ways I share like the same sentiment. I read it more as like black people. I'm always gonna have a soft side for black people. So, the best example that we can probably, or most of us can give for this is probably like some form of like family, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure not everyone in our families like view things the exact same as us, right? Or like see things the same way. Ruckus is literally their Uncle Ruckus in every sense of the word, right? Like he literally babysits for them,
Right.
At a certain point in the show, like it's established as like a dynamic for them. So for me, I read that almost more as like, sometimes you guys piss me off so much, but because you're black people, I'm always going to have a soft spot for you, and so that's the way that I read it.
I see that.
And I can sympathize with that, if that makes sense.
No, I
But
agree with your take
same-
too. I can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think to push it even more specifically, I think it's the idea of like when I'm advocating, like Huey Freeman, I feel like he's saying when I'm advocating for black people, I'm still advocating for them despite this. You know what I'm saying? This isn't the thing that makes me go,
Yeah.
oh well, if they're just gonna be like that, then screw it. It's like I still have to fight for them. It still matters to, you know what I'm saying, push on.
Yeah,
You know.
like to that point, that love, my love for my people will not equate to tolerating the bullshit. So it's like Huey
Sure.
said, it's like if you care about R. Kelly, get R. Kelly some therapy. That is a way to show love. It's like, look,
Yeah, absolutely,
I'm not-
absolutely.
You don't get to walk free, nigga. But it's like, because I have love and want to see somebody do better and not ever do this bullshit again, we gonna get you some therapy. But you also gotta go to jail for however
You're not
long
just-
it takes.
Yeah.
You don't get to walk around freely around kids no more.
Right.
But
You're
we're
not
gonna
just
try
trying
to help.
keep doing that. Yeah.
I believe in rehabilitative justice. We need to work
Sure.
on you. We need to help you teach people not to do the shit that you did. Now, whether or not you
Sure.
get out in my lifetime, TBD. but it's like we gonna work.
Yeah, but I wanted to just bring up because I thought it was really interesting. Like, when he wraps up, basically answering the beginning narrative was saying like, well, it looks like I can't blame the white man for this one. And then, wait, what am I saying? Of course I can.
Yes, I can.
Now
And I'm
I
like,
love the.
now that I agree with. I'm like,
It's such a brilliant line. But like, I think it's like it works on such a like different levels because it's like it's a joke on how we deflect internal criticism to the white boogeyman, right? When the reality is black people make choices, within a biased system of white supremacy and all that structure, but also just as individuals, you know what I'm saying? It pulls back the idea of like at the beginning, we don't want to show the you don't want to show the bad face, you know what I'm saying, of black society, or you don't even want to show us chiding black people. I think that's part of it too. You know what I mean? You don't want to be in public being like, now, don't act like this. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately,
like a form of respectability.
Yeah, and now because of that, you want to do that thing of like, no, this is all the white people's fault because black people are just victims of all this. But unfortunately, that also has the side effect of doing what is also like a white supremacist sort of like treatment of black people of like, oh, they're just people unable to, have a sense of self-determination. Right. Oh, they just don't know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a part of the white supremacist, mentality too of like, oh, you niggas just don't know. So of course we got to mollycoddle you. Oh, you're just not smart enough to run your own governments or anything like that. It's like, no. It was like, we're all dealing with trauma, but we can still make the decision to not be shitty. You know what I mean? What was it?
So this is related to R. Kelly, but not related to the episode. Have I told you my insane theory about who I think Same Girl is about? I have no evidence for this. This is just me.
The R. Kelly Usher song,
My conspiracy theory is that R. Kelly and Usher had Same Girl about Aaliyah because Aaliyah and Usher were on the same label and around the same age. And so the timeline would have matched up. And so my crack theory is that the song is about Aaliyah. And
that's messy.
I don't have evidence for it, but I don't have evidence against it.
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
Exactly. He gets it.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that is actually a quote from fucking. When I watched the episode, I was just like, "Oh, that's what a ridiculous line." And it's like, "Wait, Dick Cheney said that?"
Just because you have evidence that something does exist doesn't mean you have evidence something doesn't exist.
It's like, I mean, I guess, but that is clearly being used for nefarious purposes.
As bad as it sounds, I've used that in my job to great effect when talking about like anxiety and shit.
It's actually a very effective quote for getting away with stuff. So I'll say that points.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It can actually be used for good, but that shit, it was definitely used for malicious intent.
What did you guys think of the episode?
That's my insane theory.
Sorry. Yeah, right. Sorry, I was. I was going off topic.
No, that's it. I was just saying that's my crazy theory. What were we saying?
I was just going to ask what you guys thought.
Wait. I was just about to say. The music video. Wait. The Usher, R. Kelly music. Didn't you watch the video? Oh, it turns out it was twins all along. Oh, they thought they were having sex with the same girl, but it was just a girl who happened to have a twin. And that's who they were having sex with. What a stupid video.
Wouldn't criminal mastermind R. Kelly want you to think that?
Precisely.
The crazy part is I don't even hard disagree. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm buying into the theory. I'm looking at the lyrics.
Let's just leave that sleeping dog there. Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah. It's like, look, I'm not saying there's evidence for it or evidence against it. I don't even care if I'm right, but I don't know.
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Right.
It's like, look. Usher ain't gonna come around and be like, nah, it's about another woman. It's like, okay. That don't mean I believe you.
I don't think anyone wants to admit to anything that they did with R. Kelly these days.
Here's the thing. No one can debate me on it.
It's persona non grata. Like, I don't think Jay-Z wants to talk about it. I'm pretty sure he had his like bodyguards beat the shit out of him on tour in 2002, which probably should have been a harbinger for a lot of shit.
What?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't think there's anyone to debate my point, basically. It's an argument with no argument against it. It's just...
That's right, yeah, let's start, fuck it, let's start about, R. Kelly has a tail. Fuck it. Yeah. No one's gonna defend
him. No one can prove me wrong because there's not enough people that can come out and say anything about it.
I like no one can prove me wrong.
And the motherfucker can't read, so he ain't gonna fucking...
Exactly. That's the logic I'm operating
I
off
love that.
Very political, is it not?
Appropriate. Oh gosh, man.
Look, we're launching political careers. We're doing everything today.
There we go.
What did you guys?
What do we have to say before we? I
was gonna say, what did you guys think of the episode? Not only I guess
I already kind of gave my comments on Huey's speech. I think I like it when the Boondocks doesn't do the speeches as much, to be honest. But I think it's a weird one because also I feel like Huey, it's still an episode where Huey starts like shouting, right? And rarely does this character actually shout. So it's like it's still bringing out an interesting side of the character, and it's still cool, you know. But yeah, no. What did you guys think of the episode as a whole? Like, where would you kind of vaguely rank it? How do you feel to it?
I think it's one of the better ones. I think it certainly has like minor flaws, but it's one of those. The way it pays it off is so interesting that it makes up for it in that sort of way. And I also like have been having this idea of like, you know, Huey as a character who, well, of course he's supposed to be the voice of reason, so he's supposed to be right. But then how the show, especially early on, gives you little things that makes him not the perfect character, right? Like especially with ending like, oh, I can't blame the white man for this. Wait a minute, what am I saying? Yes, I can. You know, it's a sort of like now we can have the discussion afterwards, after the episode's over about like, well, technically, you know, you could say that because of that. But like the context of the episode is supposed to be like, oh, the black revolutionary, of course, who's just going to offload it on the white man. You know, it's like, I like how the show plays with that idea of not necessarily making him a perfect character. You know what I'm saying? And trying to like play with those flaws while still addressing the issues. But I just feel like earlier in the episode, it kind of didn't characterize him well enough, especially relative to what was going on with Tom Dubois and Riley, you know, in that situation. But it's like, I feel like they stuck the landing, but a little bit of awkwardness at points. So what did you think, Will?
You know, and as Storyteller was describing it, I think I realized something about the show. I think there are episodes that are more narrative focused and ones that are more character focused. So I'd say Garden Party is a more character one, where we see the characters doing stuff, versus like one like this, which I think is a little bit more narrative leaning. So both will have their benefits and drawbacks, but otherwise, I still think it's a classic episode for a reason. I would say it lands on its feet more than it doesn't. I think there's like, you know, even just the little jokes of like who the protesters were, the little bits here that like, it's just from a comedic and written level, I think it still overall works in terms of what it says and its message. I'd say like 80 to 90% of it works. You know, it's like the satire that it's going for, I think overall works. But I think if we dig into the nitty gritty, you can find holes to poke. Yeah, I don't think it's like I don't think it's like an upfront issues. I think it's like if you analyze it like we're doing,
the text,
then you can,
the deeper text,
it's like then you can find like holes in it. Yeah, it's like you could, but it's more in the subtext and less in the text. The text itself, I think, is good. Yeah, so I think it's still a classic. It's still good. It's still funny. It still makes me laugh, which is, I think, what it seeks to do. But I think it still gets its message across clearly.
I feel like I want to hate on the episodes so bad sometimes, just because of like how much, you know, it's thrown in my face. It's just like, bro, yeah, Boondocks is crazy, and they show me, and all I see is Huey in the red hoodie about to walk up on screen, and I say, enough, I never want to see this again. So I feel like overexposure has hurt this episode a lot for me. But every time I throw it on,
I think that'll happen to a lot of the first season.
Yeah. But every time I throw on the episode, I find something different that makes me laugh. So whether it's like the injustice anywhere, there's justice anywhere, right? That's funny. The Uncle Ruckus like sweating over the white woman, that's still funny. Like even like as we were just saying some of the quotes from the episode, I was like, yeah, like the Nikes joke. Like there's like these little like things that sometimes I'll watch an episode, be like, this episode wasn't that good. It's like, she kind of was. So Trial of R. Kelly, I think it's good. Like I would say, like I like it like 75% if I had to give a percentage. Yeah, I think the episode is good. Sometimes I worry about like the ripple effect these episodes have, right? So the best performing episodes were the Trial of R. Kelly, the Story of Gangsterlicious, and the Stick Mean episode. And keep in mind that Adult Swim saw the Boondocks pilot and they were like, oh yeah, man, like it's cool, but I mean, can you make it funny? Like, just like make it funnier. Like, ramp up the comedy, go crazy, get crazy, right? And make it more inappropriate. Make it this, make it that, right? Just go crazy with it. And obviously, what episodes were the best performing on Adult Swim? Sometimes I look back at this episode and I'm like, it's the beginning of the end, like in a weird little way, right? Because it's like, to me, these are the episodes that laid the foundation for kind of the show really just doubling down on this stuff to the point where it felt like it was chasing trends a bit.
So Thank you, folks, so much for joining us for this special ReviewAnew podcast episode. You know where to go if you want to get more of this content, you know what I'm saying? Patreon.com/RapCritic, as well as making requests for, movies or stuff like that if you want to do that, or live streams, whatnot. Ko-fi.com/RapCritic. You know what I'm saying? Get with it, act like you want it. And until next time, was there anything else? Oh yeah, we did our ads at the beginning, right? So I think we're good for the most part. Unless there's something y'all wanted to say, like, hey Diva, what's up, girl? You know what I'm saying? You want to give me shout outs or what have you before we wrap this up?
Who was Riley talking about? This is what
I don't know.
Because I'm like, you got no black
you have a
women
friend
in this
named
show.
Diva?
Like,
yeah, first of all,
and I know Riley doesn't have any
that felt
friends.
like a line that that felt like a line that Regina King improv. It was just like, hey, I gotta shout out somebody, and I just said a name.
I
Yeah.
was really like, Riley. They even make a joke about this in the strip. They're like, Riley, you ain't got no friends. like you don't have a single
Why did you
friend.
pause before you said it? It's killing me.
It's just,
You were just like, who the fuck is talking?
Who are you even talking about? You don't hang out with people.
it's just,
That
You
is
ain't got
true.
no friends. Who the fuck is he talking to?
Catch you guys next time on the ReviewAnew podcast. Oh boy, we're about to get the fuck out of here because my phone's on 10% and it's hot as fuck in this car. So, and I really hope nothing fucked up with this audio recording, although it probably did. But this is raw podcast and we're giving it to you live, bitch.
Real raw
feel
and
this
raunchy.
heat. That's right. Oh yeah, appropriate for the Boondocks podcast. Oh, we got to give it to you raw. Well, anyways, until next time, I'm Rap Critic. This has been the ReviewAnew podcast. And until next time, and this is the part where I do my random song sample as a tangential reference to something that might have been brought up in the episode.
And show me love, bitch.